integrated with. So if you have a third-party application that wants to integrate with the notification area, it's designed to work that way, yes.
I have a question is why GNOME don't support the NFS for in the remote file system in the file manager? Because currently GNOME File Manager already support the SFTP, the Samba, the WebDiv, a lot of remote file system, but without the NFS.
I'm afraid I don't know.
可以再重复一次吗？
Sorry.
I mean, any reason GNOME Desktop don't support the NFS?
I don't really know the answer to your question. I would suspect that NFS support would vary from hardware platform to hardware platform, or I mean from distro to distro. But are there any distros that support NFS? I know OpenSolaris doesn't. I always have trouble using NFS. But I thought Linux supported NFS. So I think it depends what distro you're using. And I think it has a lot to do with the what sort of file systems your kernel can support. I'm sorry, that question is just a little bit outside of my area of expertise. But if you'd like an answer to that question, if you send an email to nautilus-list@gnome.org, I'm sure someone there would know.
这样有回答到您的问题吗？
Yes, thank you.
OK， 还有其他人有什么想要问 Brian 的吗？
Actually, I have a question which is not for Brian but for the audience. In 2008, we organized GNOME Asia Summit, the first edition in Beijing, and after the conference, we started a GNOME user group to address users and developers' need. I've been surprised, actually. I've seen people using GNOME 3 here already. Does the audience feel like there is room for a GNOME user group in Taipei, and would people be interested in running the GNOME user group? So the question is for the audience. Maybe they can consider and come talk to us after the meeting, but we would be very happy to share our experience in Beijing, especially the founder and organizer of the Beijing GNOME user group is here. So if people can consider, and maybe you, Timon, or somebody else, I like people to consider.
Thank you, Fred.
So that was my question to the audience.
And also I'd like to encourage, if anyone has any questions about GNOME Shell or the future of GNOME or the direction or any questions about GNOME at all, feel free to come up to me and talk. If you'd like to see some more demos of GNOME Shell in action or accessibility features or whatever you'd like to learn about the desktop, I'm happy to work with you. The GNOME community is always looking for people to help. If you have any sort of interest in volunteering, or participating in the GNOME community as a contributor. We're looking for people with all kinds of skills, from web design to developers to people to help with translation or usability, marketing, legal issues. There's a whole range of things that the GNOME Foundation does, and if you're looking for an exciting project to get involved with, a project that helps people, then definitely pull me aside and let's talk.
OK， 大家还有没有什么其他问题想要问 Brian 的，或者是对 GNOME Shell 有什么看法、意见的？
I have another point to make. I asked the question actually to Brian yesterday. We were talking of what was the easiest way to try GNOME 3 today, and since a lot of development efforts is done by Red Hat, most likely Fedora is going to be the distribution with the best GNOME 3 support at the moment. Was the answer from Brian, though we haven't tested. But so if people in the audience wants to quickly have a look GNOME 3 with minimum damages, maybe Fedora would be a good choice to try.
I would definitely recommend Fedora.
We have a GNOME 3 user who wants to say something.
And I've also heard very good things about the support for GNOME Shell on Ubuntu, that they provide GNOME Shell packages as well. So Ubuntu or Red Hat, I think, would be two very good distro choices if you'd like to try out GNOME Shell and use it.
Yep, that's right. Sudo apt-get install GNOME-shell, and then you get GNOME Shell on Ubuntu.
And it's very easy building GNOME Shell on OpenSolaris too. It only took me a week.
So once it's installed on your machine, you can easily go back and forth between 2 and 3, or.
That depends on the integration of how GNOME Shell is integrated. I haven't used Red Hat. I haven't used the recent Red Hat build with the integration, but in talking with John and McCann and Ray Strode, they've integrated it much like Comp is. So when you go to the appearance applet, you can specify whether you want GNOME Shell or the classic desktop in much the same way that you turn on and off Compiz. And I'm not sure, but I would imagine Canonical is doing it a similar way. If you're using OpenSolaris, I just simply restart the display manager when I want to switch, which works very well for me. But it hasn't been integrated into the desktop quite as well yet. It's not integrated into the appearance applet. But you can use GNOME Shell on OpenSolaris.
OK， 还有其他问题，请说。
想请问那个在硬体需求的部分，在 GNOME 2跟 GNOME 3之间大概的差异，可以大概说明一下吗？谢谢。
Could you make a simple speech about the hardware requirement for the GNOME 2 and the GNOME 3?
The requirement.
Yeah, the hardware requirement so that everybody can run in GNOME Shell well.
Well, the main difference in terms of limitation is that GNOME 3 does not support graphics cards that do not support OpenGL. You have to have an OpenGL graphics card in order to run GNOME Shell. But assuming that you have that hardware, the desktop is actually very light. It doesn't consume very much CPU, and it doesn't have very high memory requirements. But in order to do the animations that it does, it requires OpenGL support. It currently runs very well on desktop and laptop computers. The intention of GNOME Shell is that it will scale very well from the small mobile devices all the way to multi-user servers, but the user interface is going to require some work in order to effectively scale to the smaller screen sizes. So I'm not sure if GNOME 3.0, the GNOME 3.0 release, will have that degree of scaling, but I would certainly expect that certainly by one of the follow-up releases, GNOME Shell will scale across a wide range of hardware.
还有其他人有什么问题想问的吗？如果不问的话，主持人要发问哦。OK, Brian, I have.
So you mentioned that the GNOME can support wide from very entry level to the desktop. So how about the so-called embedded systems? Because for example, Qt has quite widely support now, and seems now Nokia seems to create GTK supporting the Migo. So is any plan for the GNOME to have supporting those embedded system, or any plan or something?
I had trouble understanding the question.
可以麦克风靠近一点。
Oh, sorry. I mean, what's the plan if the GNOME will support to more entry-level system or even embedded system?
The idea of GNOME Shell is that it should scale across a wide range of hardware. I would anticipate that it would be an effective desktop to use in an embedded system. But I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Okay, so I mean, for example, for Qt has the support now. For example, it has a environment that build up. For example, the Migo. For GNOME, is there a similar plan for this?
Well, I think that the focus of one of the objectives of GNOME 3 is to make the GTK and GNOME stack more competitive in the mobile space. At the moment, a lot of mobile companies seem to be favoring the Qt environment. But the GNOME community is working to provide a desktop that can challenge that and be competitive.
Okay, thank you.
还有其他问题大家想要问的吗？Okay, but I will question. How about the compatibility for the touch screen to import?
Touchscreen support would need to be implemented at the widget level, and the GTK community is currently working to add touchscreen support to GTK. So GNOME 3 doesn't today support touchscreens, but I think that people can expect to see touchscreen support in the very near future.
OK， 大家还有没有什么其他问题想问的？或者是
I have a question. Do you have any idea about the benchmark between the GNOME Desktop 2 and 3? I mean, because the GNOME 3 looks like need a lot of hardware support to do the rendering. So, do you have any idea about the benchmark differential?
Well, because OpenGL typically works with hardware acceleration, GNOME 3 tends to be faster than GNOME 2. The usability has been reworked so that doing activities like switching between windows can be done with very quick actions, so that transitions should be much more speedy than they were in GNOME 2. But it is doing a lot more animation. Which might appear like it's doing a lot of work, but most graphics cards that support OpenGL have hardware acceleration. So those animated effects actually do not consume a lot of resources, and the hardware acceleration on your graphics card is otherwise not being used. So the animations don't impact the performance very much, unless you're doing something crazy like running OpenGL via Mesa or something.
But how about the power consumption? Because if